It's time for Bourbon with Friends, the bourbon podcast that never takes itself too seriously. Pull up a chair, grab a glass, and remember, a bourbon with friends can change the world. Here we go.
Hey, everybody, welcome to Bourbon with Friends. Myself and Joe are here to talk about whiskeys from around the world and how a bourbon or whiskey with friends can change the world. How was your trip to Hawaii, Joe?
It was good. Went there for our niece's high school graduation. It's the second one in that side of the family that graduated. So it was nice hanging out in Hawaii with all our kids with us. My mother-in-law, brother-in-law, his son, and my other sister-in-law and her husband were there. So it was really cool. The only bad part about that is too many tourists. And the resort we're staying at is 35 miles away from our sister-in-law's house, but it takes an hour because maximum speed is like 30 miles per hour.
5? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you were on Kauai, right?
Yeah.
I really miss that island a lot. That was some of the best surfing I've ever done and fishing.
Oh, it's beautiful, but like I said, there's just way too many tourists doing stupid stuff.
I don't know what you're talking about. Us white people are never going there and throwing stuff and having fun.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking about having fun, now this company has, let's say, been around for a little bit that we're going to interview, but hasn't really put out their product until, a year ago?
Yeah, I believe so, yeah.
Yeah, so almost.
It was almost like they were, just waiting in the background. Like they were just some mystical thing, like a lure or something, I don't know.
It's fucking oaks. It's like an oak tree growing in the wrong direction.
Yeah.
And that lure just comes out. And speaking of which, let's introduce our two co-founders and the head of sales for it, Matt and Tom, the co-founders, if you want to bring them in, Joe.
Oh, I can't see the screen. Sorry.
Okay, I got it. And then Jack, the head of sales. How you guys doing?
All right. Doing great, guys. Doing great. Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
100%. Thanks for coming in.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, go ahead and unmute yourself, Jack, so you can say hi.
What's up, gentlemen?
Good work, Jack. Good work, Jack. Nailed it.
I force you to
Great
talk.
job.
That's what I'm here for.
Joe, I've got a son in Hawaii, so it's cool to hear you talk a little bit about being down there. We got a chance to go, my wife and I, for the first time earlier this summer, and we are now taking out a bank loan so we can take the family this time later this summer. So we're excited. We're excited to get down there. It's just absolutely stunning. Beautiful. And Tom spent a lot of time there as well.
Yeah, I lived in Hawaii for 3 years when I was a kid. My dad was Army. So, so I'm a military brat, and I got to spend 3 years in Hawaii when I was younger, just before the age where I could enjoy it. So if I was there 3 years after when I left, boy, that would have been a fun time. But
Nice.
A fun time or dangerous for your parents, just depending on what situation you're in.
Yeah, exactly. I was lucky. Our plane flight was free for me and the wife because I had points.
Oh, nice.
And my mother-in-law has a timeshare, so we had a nice 2-room resort style room, and we paid a fraction of what we paid for a hotel. So
that's
for sure. It's great.
And now I'm even more jealous. This is bullshit.
All right. So Matt and Tom, of course, we're here enjoying your Fort Greene.
Yeah, we'd love to hear that.
And we like to ask you, pretty much, how you guys started this, way from the beginning. We want to find out, maybe just, give us a story of how you guys met and how you guys decided to start this business.
Yeah, I'm glad you said it that way, too, because it's kind of hard to tell the story of how Oaklore started without telling the story of how Matt and I met, because that was kind of the beginning, was Matt and I meeting. We are neighbors, and we literally live across the street from each other, and met walking to the bus stop. I was in the neighborhood just a few years before Matt, and always walked my kids to the bus stop. And all of a sudden, there's a new neighbor and we met walking our kids to the bus stop. We had many drinks, nights following that, and days following that, and grew into a friendship and grew into a business, and lot of struggles and problems and hurdles along the way. But to make the long story short, that's we are good problem solvers and are still here today, because I don't think you start a distillery without being a good problem solver. So friendships that grew into a business.
I feel like it's kind of like every dad at the bus stop's dream, right?
Yes.
You meet somebody, you become friends, you start talking bourbon, you start hanging out, having bourbon, and then you decide to leave your careers of 20 years each and go in a completely different direction and watch your wives cringe and sort of freak out minimally, or more. And then you have a business, and fast forward 8 years now, we're really proud of where Oaklore is, and excited to have it all start out of friendship.
That's awesome.
Well, that's amazing. First and foremost, and I'm sorry I got it wrong that you guys are at not 10 years, but 8 years. So.
10 years friends. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Okay, maybe I wasn't wrong, but I guess I just read.
Well, you can say the company's 20 years old. I think that just adds to the lore if you want.
That's right.
People are going to believe whatever you say. So I mean, heck, at this point, it's a third generation distillers.
Third generation neighbors.
We're third generation neighbors. We were born in the Appalachian Mountains and drinking from a still as babies.
Born as friends. We birthed children as friends. Yeah, that's how it works.
There was a lightning strike one night. Caught fire to everything. We had to start all over, and we decided we were going to grassroots grow a company from nothing.
Lightning strike actually charred the barrels. We were
charred all they're all from that original lightning strike. That first lightning strike.
That's exactly right.
And we formed the clay in our hands and built a giant still
while all skipping and holding hands, because
that's what you do.
That's what friends do, right?
Are we recording yet, Jordan?
Yeah, we are.
Well, this is going to be great. That's going to be so many thumbnails just right there, just from that conversation.
Well, here's a couple real ones. So Matt and I, that's all that story. Well, that previous story is not true, but the beginning is true. We would meet and hang out and drink after meeting at the bus stop, and we would hang out in our basements, and we would get together. And I don't know why. It was always Tuesday night, but it kind of ended up being Tuesday night.
Tuesday night.
And we called it Tues drinking. And we knew if we didn't cut it off before 11, it would be 2 a.m.
2 a.m. for sure.
And we spent so many Tuesdays just drinking. And then when we started getting the idea of the business, boy, it was a mandatory meeting.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And so it was Tues drinking. And when we started distilling, we still were doing our jobs. We would meet Mondays and we would mash, and then we would both take off Fridays and distill on Fridays. And we did that for
a long time
before the next step.
Yeah, kind of learning the craft, learning and understanding our palate. When we would hang out on Tuesdays, we had this kind of special practice that we would do where I would bring some bottles in, Tom would bring some bottles in, and we would blind taste each other on the different bottles that we brought. And it was really fun because we started out, could you tell the difference between a Scotch, an Irish whiskey, a bourbon, and so on and so forth. And we kind of graduated from there to, what kind of bourbon is this? What's the mash bill? We kind of graduated from that to stated distillation and age, and really trying to understand what each climate ultimately did to the staves. And we really studied how the staves of the barrel ultimately impacted. And that's really where our name came from. Those oak staves have such a story to tell that it made sense to call ourselves Oaklore, because that was the pattern. That was what we were studying. We were toasting staves and trying to see how they would affect. We were trying different char levels to see how they would affect distillate. And it was a fascinating process because honestly, we're both nerds, and it was just a natural progression for us to dive in like that.
That's cool.
Well, damn.
I know you kind of
you fucked up.
took my next question.
That's fine. I'll figure it out.
No worries.
That's okay. Though it should be an organic conversation that we're having, and we are. You guys are doing a passion that you really enjoy. You're really bringing out the stuff that you like to do. But not only that, you're showing what you guys have a dedication to, just from a friendship to building something together that's small and then building it into this amazing business that you have now. So it's those baby step processes until you fucking built a distillery, then it's a little bit bigger. But it's going from small to big and growing a dream that no one else could really do until you guys did it.
It was baby step processes until, like you said, we built the distillery, and then it was a million baby step processes right after another, coming at 1,000 miles an hour.
Solve enough problems, you get to open a distillery.
That's what we would say. That was our mantra. Yeah. If we solve enough problems, we get to open a distillery.
Yeah, solve enough problems, you get to stay open.
That's very true.
Yeah.
So Matt, let's talk about this. You're a pastor and a whiskey maker. What's the balance like between those two, and does it overlap sometimes into talking about one thing or another thing in combination?
Well, I'll answer that in two ways. The first way is to say, when we were birthed from the lightning strike in the Appalachian Mountains, I had a vision, and Elijah Craig came and spoke to me. And the father of the pastor, priest of bourbon, said, "Ye shall go forth and make bourbon."
All true.
It's all true, 100%. It's kind of a cool thing. Priests for years in Belgium were making beer. That was kind of a thing. So it's not really unusual that that clergy would have something to do with alcohol. Our story here ended up that Tom came and did a bourbon tasting for a men's group that I had started at the church, and it was really fun because it was a men's group for men who hate men's groups, and we would get together and do a bourbon tasting on Friday, and Tom came and led it, and it was so much fun, and we had a great time seeing the community around it. But what ended up happening is one of the guys that helped me start that group and some of our friends all got together. We did a tasting of some bourbons that everybody brought, and Tom and I snuck one of our products in there, and it ended up winning the night. And one of the guys pulled us aside and was just like, first of all, they didn't believe that we made it, which was true. I mean, that's true. But then they said, he said, "Well, I don't know what your plans are, but I'm all in." And that was our third founder, Travis Masters. And so on our bottle, you see 3 last names: Bogan, Simpkins, and Masters. And that's where it kind of came from. So from that community, from that life as a pastor, this was born as well in some ways. So, I think there's community around a glass. In the world needs more community, people looking out for each other. And so it's not that far-fetched to think that you can come together as a community and see some awesome things happen.
Well, based off of what you're currently doing and how you're helping out your community in general, it's amazing. And then talking about doing a men's group that men hate men's group is kind of great as well, because hearing that alone just makes me want to join it. And I hate groups. So that's amazing.
Well, thanks, man.
When drinking's involved, the group works out pretty well.
It's definitely.
I can imagine so.
Definitely fun. Well, that got us to a point, and then we had 2 other great partners, Derek and Sarper, who really they were friends of Travis, and they came into our business. Now we have 5 folks on our ownership team, and that partnership group is really what helped us to be able to take the next steps. You guys talked that we were kind of around, but sort of waiting in the wings, and when we all kind of came together, that's when the stars aligned, and we were able to take some of the next bigger steps. And so. That whole thing has happened out of community and friends.
Well, that's amazing. And I'm really happy to hear that, because I mean, our podcast is Bourbon with Friends. So, and hearing that you guys created it out of a friendship is the best thing that we can hear.
Yeah.
Well, we have a title sponsor going forward just on the story.
Just saying, I'm here for it.
Yeah, what you're saying about how it brings people together. Like me and Brian just barely met in person for the first time back in
February.
Yeah. But we met first on Instagram.
Yep.
We'll get together on Instagram, and there's a whole group of us who get together and start lives and just drink together. Bullshit talk, whatever, just hang out. And so it does bring people together, so.
Well, cheers to that for sure.
Yes.
Yeah,
Cheers.
I gotta reach across. Ooh.
So I have another question. You guys are in North Carolina, and North Carolina is a beverage control state. So what were some of the biggest hurdles in getting your product in a beverage control state? And also, was it hard to get your distillery up and running in that state?
Yeah, so the beverage control state has its issues. It also has some benefits. We love the state of North Carolina. Matt and I are not from the state, but we consider ourselves North Carolina guys.
Mm-hmm.
2/3 of my kids are born here. I know
80% of mine.
80% of Matt's kids are born here. I went to school down here, and my wife's from here, and we live here. This is our town. So we are very, very proud to be from North Carolina. North Carolina does a lot of things really, really well. North Carolina has the 6th most distilleries of any state in the country. And because of that, and because of the fact that we live in the city of Charlotte, which is a very progressive city, and it has a lot of people that kind of know what they're doing. So to open the distillery, there were hurdles. We had to prove to people that we are not a brewery, and prove to people that the impact is not even as much as a brewery. So the challenges of being in North Carolina really came from some local rules that we navigated. Took us a little bit of time, but we had some really great local administrators that were willing to help and get on our side to kind of get through. And then when you talk about a control state, it really is a benefit for small distilleries because you're allowed to get your product in all the ABC stores. So being a control state is helpful in that way. I think the problem now is that we are growing past the point that control state is beneficial. So now we wish it wasn't a control state. But in the beginning, it was a really good environment for us, and it was a good environment to bring Oaklore into this world. And so it's really great. And so, Jack's with us now to help us navigate the control state and even beyond. And so I think it's been really good. It's been really, really healthy. It hasn't been as problematic, is that right? Than you would think, even though there are inherent problems with a control state. Where our product can only be in an ABC store.
Right.
That's a problem. I wish we could put it in the gas stations. I wish we could put it in the grocery stores.
Right.
That would be really great. So there's inherent problems with it, but outside of that, we're proud that we're from North Carolina. We're proud that we get to represent the products that this state. In this state, we are in the Piedmont of this state, which is the best aging area to age whiskey, and so. It's really, really great and fortuitous that this is where we met and this is where we started our company, because there's a lot of big benefits for us.
Yeah, made us nervous in the beginning when we started talking about really the logistics about kicking this thing off. But it ended up, like Tom said, being a real bonus. We got to a point where we knew we needed help, and that's when we kind of serendipitously met Jack. He was coming to think about starting a brand here. And Jack is the reason that everybody east of the Mississippi has heard of Midwinter's Dram. So you're welcome, everyone. That was Jack that made that happen. But we brought Jack in, and we're super excited to continue to expand into all kinds of places. Next up for us is next state. So saturate North Carolina, make sure that your state knows you and make sure that your state likes you. And if that's successful, then you can start moving into the next states. And so we're at that point logistically. And of course, then the most recent has been pushing across the nation. And I think, is it 42 states now, Jack? I think it's 42, or is it 46?
E-com, yeah.
Yeah, 42 states on e-com. That's a whole new world, right? It's 5 or 6 years ago, selling online and shipping to 42 states wasn't a thing in the alcohol world. So it's almost like you have our third premise of selling, which has been pretty unique. You can almost become a national brand before you become a local brand, which is pretty. It's a fun time to be in this business relative to that. It's not easy to navigate, as you know, Brian, but it's definitely allows you to kind of have some fun with PR and marketing and digital media and get your brand out there to the masses before before you even kind of saturate your local market.
Yeah.
And as an aside, we met Jack through our friend. And so I had a good friend in town. He was our sons played soccer together.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, "Hey, I know this guy. I want to introduce you." And he is, in the whiskey world. You guys would probably have a lot in common. And that's how we met Jack.
More bourbon with more friends.
More bourbon with more friends.
That's even better. We can keep drinking to that. I'm fine with that.
Exactly. Oh, no. I got to ask Jack a question once we get off. It's about a different brand, but I have a brand that he worked for before.
There are other brands?
There is no different brand.
Jack, are you cheating on us?
He cheated before he met you, I heard.
Everything was so beautiful until this moment.
Rosy eyes, and then now rose glasses.
Goodness.
That's the best type of trader, the one who knows the industry before you.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to get into your guys' 4 grain now. So this 4 grain bourbon, it's like I said, this is the first time I've had a drink since a little over a month now. And this has really piqued my interest in wanting to get back drinking a lot more, but slowly. So let's talk about why you guys chose 4 different grains. Corn, wheat, rye, and malted barley, and what inspired that mash and the flavors that reflect what you're actually putting out.
Yeah, I'll give you the long story, and then you just show me the sign, and then I'll cut the story short. When Matt and I we started this because we love doing it. We started this because this is a passion. We do the things that we love, and we practice and we do things over. And we started this business older when we were older, and our whole goal has been make the best thing we can make. There's no other reason why we would get in this business where we would like to make money. That's really, really important. And we need to, but it wasn't about making money. It was about making the best product. It was about doing the thing we love. And we knew that if we did the thing we love, we would make a good product. And so early on, I was making stuff and I'd say, "Hey, Matt, what do you want the mash bill to be? Let's start somewhere." And Matt is a wheated bourbon guy.
Oh, yeah, man.
And so he's like, "Well, make it wheat." And he's like, "Oh," I was like, "Okay, well, how much wheat?" He's like, 157% wheat. And I'm like, well, I mean,
math is hard.
Yeah,
okay?
We'll do that.
Math is hard, guys.
I started as a Woodford, so I was like a mid-high rye bourbon fan. And so we knew what rye does in the barrel. We know how it ages. We know what it brings early on in the process. And so every time I would say, "Hey, what do you want the mash bill to be?" So make it high wheat. I'd say, "No problem." But I always started throwing 5% in there. And it was always just because I wanted that little punch of the rye, which I liked. I liked wheated bourbon as well. Probably the corn and the wheat were probably my favorites too. But rye always has an addition to give. And so everything we made always had about 5% rye early on when we were experimenting and trying and mashing on Mondays and distilling on Fridays. I'd always have about 5% rye. Mm-hmm. And so when we really got down to it, we had to nail down, "Hey, what are you guys making? We have to make a label now. Now we got to make a label. Now you got to tell the world who you are." Well, we were always doing 4 grains.
Yeah.
I mean, it was what we had always done. So it made perfect sense to just keep it. It was always high corn because we're corn guys, we're bourbon guys. Wheat was always a big fan. I always loved throwing a little bit of the rye in there. We always use the malt as the conversion because we're a little bit of traditionalists, right? We kind of like the traditional make bourbon, use malt for the conversion and go. So we always were doing 4 grain. So we just carried it through because that's who we are.
It's to be honest with you guys, I am not a big bourbon fan. There's very few bourbons that I look for.
Sorry.
But this is something definitely I will buy. This is something that I would definitely keep on the shelf in the bar. It doesn't have that typical, at least for me, I'm not getting any of that typical caramel, all that other bullshit that all those other reviewers talk about. I'm getting cherry on the nose, on the palate. I'm getting like a sweet buttered popcorn. It's just, it's very enjoyable.
It really is. It's a very unique flavor profile. And like I said, not I haven't had a drink in a month, and going into this again, it's a long finish, which I'm really enjoying, because some of the stuff I've had in the past, it doesn't last very long. It gives a very relaxed flavor and profile to it. Yours it fluctuates in between. At the start, it's a little crisp, then it goes up into a bold flavor, and then the back end, it's a long last finish, which I really enjoy a lot. And I'm only going to do 2 pours for the night, because I still have to go to bed and I have to take meds after this. So I'll wait. But
well, everything you're saying is wonderful. We love to hear it. So thank you very much. Our goal when we started this was, man, we really wanted to make a bourbon that was our house bourbon.
Yeah.
The bourbon that if we walk down to our cabinet of bourbon and we all have just numerous bottles, what's the one you always go to? Mm-hmm. That was the goal. If we could do that was the win.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. That's really, we fell in love with whiskey tasting. One of the things we realized early on is that we both brought different things into how we taste bourbon. I was a palate guy. The nose wasn't as important. The finish wasn't as important. It just had to be an incredibly deep, rich palate. Had to have a lot of things going on, a lot of flavors and characteristics. And for Tom, it was nose and finish. And so when we started making our own stuff and putting stuff out there, the nose and the finish were covered really by Tom, and my thoughts were around the palate. So it was a great team to make sure that it didn't fall off any of those places. If it falls off in the nose, we're going to the next barrel. We're going to find the one that's the right one that has the right. If it's the wrong palate, go on to the next barrel and find out the one that's ready and right. Everything that we have is aged all in 53-gallon barrels. They're all it didn't do any mini barrels or fast aging processes. Is no substitute for time. But when we have the right ones, man, we know it's right. And so we're really excited that you guys got what you've got. And really awesome to hear, Joe, that you're going to keep that in the bar. It's really interesting. You said you're not a bourbon fan, but it hit for you. So that's fantastic. That's fantastic.
Yeah, more of a rye single malt guy.
Got it.
So I guess I'm one of those people who doesn't like all the hoopla. When someone talks too much about something, I really get turned off on it. So that's why bourbon isn't really. I don't go searching for it. That's my thing. So can you disclose the actual percentages or no of the mash bill?
Yeah, I mean we talk about that
all the time.
Yeah. Jack, that's where Jack jumps in. He loves to talk mash bill. He's the rye guy, Joe. You and Jack would.
Yeah, my license plate on my personal car is rye guy. And coming from High West and Sagamore Spirit, rye's been beaten into me for the last 10 years of my life, and I just love what rye brings to the table. But you mentioned that finish, right, Brian? And this is something that I love about Matt and Tom and their palates. And I apologize for the noise here if it's loud. But one thing that texture and finish is something that you can really appreciate with what Matt and Tom do. And a lot of that has to come with that barrel entry proof. And I don't think it's talked about enough. And it's really important when we talk about barrel entry proof. That weeded, because we do, when it comes to our 4-grain bourbon that you're trying here, it's 2 different mash bills. It's 2 different, it's a weeded bourbon and a rye bourbon coming together after aging. And that weeded bourbon goes into the barrel at 100 proof, and that rye bourbon goes into the barrel at 110. So even cash rank, Tom, we're talking 108, 109. It's coming out of the barrel at. So to get it down to that 92 proof, Brian, we're just adding a touch of water in there. So that allows that creamy, that viscous texture to stay intact, that finish to last a little bit longer. Because what happens when you come out of the barrel at 130, 140 proof and you get it down to 92, you're adding a lot of water. You're watering that whiskey down after the fact. So you lose that creamy texture, you lose that finish, it kind of falls off a cliff. So the way that Matt and Tom are doing this here is it's more expensive to do it this way, but it makes a better whiskey, especially if you want to come out at that approachable proof at 92 out of the bottle. The mash bill after we batch those 2 mash bills together is going to end up being around 72 corn, 11 wheat, 10 rye, 7 malted barley. after we batch the 2 mash bills together.
Well, yeah.
Joe, did you get that down?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
So what you're saying about how you guys how you add your water, do you do it at a lower proof? That makes a lot of sense, because if you do add too much, it doesn't let it compound together. Because whiskey is a compound, and if you add too much to something with alcohol, it doesn't let it mix well. So that makes a lot of sense. The way you guys are doing it at a lower proof and not watering down a high proof liquid or alcohol out of the barrel. So and that mouthfeel, it just lingers. I mean, for 92, this is like coating the glass really well, so you are getting a lot of the oils left over from the barrel and that proof. It's really good.
That alcohol content, the percentage of alcohol in the bourbon, in the distillate when it goes in the barrel, really affects on what the barrel can do to the liquid. A really high alcohol content in distillate will interact with the barrel a little differently. So right around 110, between 100 and 110, really interacts with the barrel, really lets the wood sugars and the alcohol and the flavors really come out. We really enjoy what that produces.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Well, I want to get into a little bit different side of it. I want to get into the manufacturing side of it. Can you guys tell us a little bit about your distillery itself? What still you guys use? What columns? If is it a pot column? What kind of fermentation tanks? The whole.
Yes, we are. We make it on 2 different stills. We actually have used this still that has been put into place in 2010.
Yeah, I think so.
And then it went dormant for 5 years, and then we were able to. It was purchased, and so we were able to get with those guys that purchased it, and we only make that stuff on a certain still that sits there. It's a 24-inch copper column, and it really produces this really unique flavor. And we aren't one of those groups that think things made on a column are all the same. One column is the same as another column. Mm-hmm. It's not true. Pot still has a very unique characteristic and flavor from pot still to pot still, and how you run your pot still can be very different from run to run. So you get a lot of uniqueness from a pot still, but every column also produces a different characteristic and a different flavor. And that's really important to us because we spend a lot of time trying to find the right one. And we believe that we have. So 24-inch columns. We don't like
plates.
Oh, man.
Huh?
How many plates?
Oh, the column plate probably has 20 or 30. It's a column. So they're sieve plates. Yeah. They're not like a bubble plate. If you use a pot, and essentially a pot still is a pot still, regardless whether you put bubble plates on it, it's still a pot still, even though it has what people call a column on top. It's not a column still. It's not a continuous still. So what we use is a 24-inch continuous still. It has 20 to 30 sieve plates, and that's how you run a mash through a continuous still. Our local still has seven plates, and we run a lot of our clear spirits through that still, and that's a bubble plate still. But yeah, we usually stick to the 24-inch continuous column. That's what we think produces. It's got that good balance between, hey, you have to produce a lot of whiskey, you have to make it economical, and you still got to be good, and it's got to have a lot of character, and that's where we find the sweet spot is.
Yep.
Perfect. What size fermentation tanks are you guys using?
So when we run these runs, they're about 300 runs. So what's that, around 6,000
gallon?
Yeah.
Yep.
So a decent size one.
Yeah. What's that?
So it's a pretty good sized one, right?
Yeah. We use those. So we have some equipment that our local equipment isn't big enough to do all the things we want. So we'll do some stuff on our local equipment, and then we use other people's columns as well. So we have some stills that we have other people run, but we go out there and run them. But they're at other people's facilities because they have the equipment size. Now we just closed on a 40,000 square foot space here in Charlotte. That is going to be our barrel warehouse. We're going to bring all of our barrels to this warehouse. We like the aging where we're at here. We're in the Piedmont of North Carolina, the sweet spot between the mountains and the coast. And this has got beautiful aging. So we're going to bring all of our barrels into this space. And down the road, building out this space, we'd like to build our distillery as well. And so we'll see if we can centralize everything in the future would be maybe the goal. But for right now, bringing all our barrels to the Piedmont, running our stuff on these 24-inch continuous columns, we find it produces the best whiskey for us.
Yeah.
Again, this is amazing. And it literally shows it in the glass, in the bottle in itself, and just in the whiskey. I mean, if I poured this out to someone and compared it to Middle West or another company like this, that I think would be very similar to this your guys' profile, because what this reminds me of is the pumpernickel rye a little bit from Middle West. But I'm going to say just right off the bat, I prefer your guys's right now.
Thanks, man. Awesome.
Yeah, so let's see. So I know you guys, started this, basically on your own, but you had to have some mentors. Who along the line has been your mentors, and what did they help you with, and what did they, tell you to do, not to do? And did you take a lot of that to heart, or did you guys go, "Oh, that's bullshit"?
That's a great question, and here's why it's a great question: is because I don't know. There are the select few that born and raised, and my grandpappy's pappy was a distiller, but there's not a lot of distillers that kind of start like that. Everyone starts from a different direction. I biostatistics degree, 20 years on a construction company. We got Pastor Matt over here. And so in the beginning, when we were doing our stuff, I would exhaust, we exhausted the internet's information in probably 3 hours. And then I would be doing stuff and I would say, Matt, I'm just stuck. I don't know why this is like this. And he went, who do you want to talk to? And I went, I don't know, anyone, I don't care. And he went, great. We're traveling in 2 weeks. And I was like, oh, wow, saddle up. We were traveling, and we traveled every month for probably 2 years. Matt would call distillery after distillery, and we made so many friends. And anyone who would talk to us, we would go visit. And it wasn't when they would answer the phone and be like, great, I'm glad you answered the phone. When can we come visit?
Yeah.
And so we drove, and we spent so much time driving around. But we have a great story how we got started.
We met Charlie Nelson from Nelson Brothers. That was at the time they were putting out Belle Meade. They were putting their own stuff away, and I think they got it. That was right about the time we talked to them. They had just hit with Constellation and were kind of really launching into the next stage of their business. Andy and Charlie were incredibly helpful and made some introductions for us. That really sort of set the tone for our future. I remember a story of when we were talking with Drew from Willett, Drew Colesveen, and we were walking around with him, and I remember this moment. There
was no reason I should have been talking to Drew and asking him the stupid questions I was asking.
It was great because Drew is such a nice guy. He was willing to answer all of our questions, and so we're walking around and we're talking with him, and we're kind of diving deep on some things. And Tom asked a question about a piece of equipment that we were kind of struggling with, and Drew's response was, "Throw that in the trash can. It is worth." And so we'd spent hours and hours and hours trying to sort this one piece of equipment. He was just like, throw it in the trash can, use this other process. And that was incredibly helpful for us because those conversations pushed us forward. Really shortly thereafter, that is when, Willett just completely took off and has just become, put out incredible stuff. And Drew's been a good friend since then. John Hargrove of Whiskey House, he was originally with Barton and then Bardstown Bourbon, and now he's running Whiskey House. He's a guy we talk to at least once a week.
If you talk about true mentor, just truly a good person, good friend.
Yeah.
We wouldn't be here without him. Yeah. I mean, John Hargrove could be the reason why we're here.
Yeah, he's something special. He's a great guy. Whenever we can get him to come to town, whenever we go over to Kentucky and hang out with him, we always get into a little bit of trouble. But
it's not our fault.
It's not our fault. It's all John's fault. but he's been a great friend, and his background, I think before Barton, was Pepsi. He was in production and operations, and then went to Barton and revolutionized how Barton did what they did, so much so that BBC brought him on to help design and implement the entirety of that operation, and now he's on his own doing his own thing with Dave Mandel at Whiskey House, and they've been great friends. They've been helpful. They pick up our phone call. They don't have to do that. And then what's really cool is that in this industry, there is a lot of a collaborative, championing one another kind of thing. We know that people don't know much about distilleries. They're still kind of learning, but high tide raises all boats. And so working together and helping other distilleries, what's cool now is that we get phone calls from other distillers trying to figure it out and wanting to know what to do. And as a matter of fact, that's really how we met Jack, because Jack was like, hey guys, I want to start a brand. I got to figure this thing out. What do I do? And we spent a few hours talking to Jack, and then we were like, man, why don't you just work with us and make this thing happen together? And that was the beginning of that relationship, and ultimately a huge step forward in our company's footprint.
Yeah, it's so great how there's not a lot of gatekeeping in the whiskey world in the U.S. Like, we've had other guests on here who've had the same story, starting their brand, and they've gotten help from so many different distillers or distilleries or, head distillers or blenders. It's really great that you would think that something that's been around for so long, there would be a lot of gatekeeping, but even some of the bigger brands are more than willing to help you figure this out.
It is a tough business. It takes a lot of money, and it takes a lot of, just keep going and getting after it. And I think that when people love to see people make it, because it's so hard.
Yeah.
And so even the big brands are like, I hope you make it.
Yeah.
And because it's hard. I mean, what a terrible business model where you have to spend a lot of money, make a decision, and then wait 5 years to see if it works out. That's a tough business. But I think there's a lot of respect in the industry.
Because I'm also big in the cigar community, and I talk to a lot of factory owners and brand owners, and it's the same thing down there. To make a cigar, you pull it, you pull the leaves off the plant. You still got to let it ferment and age for years, and it's still, you don't know what's going to happen with it. So, and a lot of those factories, they all help each other, just like, I don't know if you heard, there's a big fire in the Dominican Republic about 6 months ago. And a lot of the other factories helped that one brand out, or that factory, so they can still stay in business and get their products out. Just like I'm sure, not Wild Turkey, who had the big flood, Buffalo Trace.
Oh yeah. Buffalo Trace of the flood. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And just like a few years ago, that other brand had the fire, how everyone helped them out, even though they're a well-established legacy brand. So that's
good people.
A lot about the 99 fire with Heaven Hill.
Yeah, Heaven Hill. That's right. Yeah. So why don't we go into a fun question before we go over some more about this?
Okay. When do I get to pour the rye? We are still drinking bourbon or rye? I gotta keep up.
Well, we only have the bourbon.
We only have
okay.
What did you,
right.
Jack? Come on, man.
Hey, that's a great pour to stay with, because we're bourbon.
All right.
We were kind of like, do we have to drink rye in there?
All right.
You guys only got the bourbon?
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah.
Oh, interesting. That's okay.
I mean, if you want to send the rye, we'll be happy.
Oh no,
we will absolutely send the rye. I don't know why we didn't send it.
The sequel.
All right. So last year, when the host took over the show, we had a squirrel question, and we kind of like, all right, we're kind of tired of it. We want to start something new. So one of our other hosts who couldn't make it tonight, he lived in LA for a while and was a screenwriter. He wrote scripts for movies and TV shows. So now we're trying to go into this phase. So if you and Tom were cast in a comedic duo in a buddy cop movie or sitcom, what would your characters' names and quirks be? And will you guys be drunk in every episode or movie?
Wow.
Okay.
Well,
are we picking actors?
Yeah.
No, No, just what would your names be? And and what would your characters names and quirks be? Or you can, if you want, you can pick actors if you want to, who would play
This
it.
is how it work out.
Okay.
I'm gonna start, but you're gonna go jump in.
Go, I'm sorry.
All right. Because this is the way it is. All right. So you're gonna have. I'm gonna be the. I'm not doing that. I'm just not doing it. And then you're gonna have the man. This is you. Go.
Come on, let's go. We're gonna do it, man. We can jump it. We're gonna make it. We can hit the edge of the building and Tom be like, no way.
I'm not doing that.
You're gonna die.
I'm not doing
You're
that.
gonna die, and you're.
It's like Will Smith and the shirt guy. What's his name?
I would stand in the corner and I would just sit here and I'd drink whiskey and I would just be like, I'm not doing that. And that would be like, this is gonna be great. This is what we're gonna do. We're gonna start singing first.
Yes.
And then we'll be jumping up and down and get this. This will be the pterodactyl fly in. It's going to be awesome. And then we're going to run across the thing. And I'm going to be like,
it's like
I'm not doing that. And then by the end of the movie, I'll have drank so much that I'll go, all right, I'm doing it. Yeah. And then the movie would stop and it'd be over.
Yeah. I want to be Cooley McKicksamass. That'd be my name.
Cooley McKicksamass.
McKicksamass. Yeah. It's
his buddy Bob.
It's Irish. Yeah. Oh, it's like Mark Wahlberg. He's like Mark Wahlberg, athletic, amazing looking, can do anything in the world and makes a plan and finishes the plan. And I'm like the Will Ferrell idiot.
The McCool McKicksamass.
Yeah, what was it? Wasn't there a movie with Will Ferrell and
Well,
yes.
It's like that's the movie.
Yes,
it's
it
like
was
the other
Big
guys.
Daddy, or it was the new Daddy, or Daddy's Home.
Oh yes,
so they already made that movie. By the way,
they already made all those movies.
So it's basically just go watch that movie. That's
okay. But it's sponsored by Oaklore.
But it's sponsored
by Oaklore.
And just imagine Wahlberg and Ferrell just drinking the whole time.
Yeah.
And by the end, they're friends because they were hanging out drinking. That'd be the only change we'd make. The movie's already been made.
our life. This is. I just saw this scene recently. You remember the scene? It's like in they're old guys and they're like going back to college or something. It was like what's the title? Will Ferrell's in it, and
Old School.
Old School.
Old School.
This moment when the guy Stifler.
No, he's on it.
He's on it. What was the character that when he shoots himself with a dart and Will Ferrell's like,
oh my gosh,
and then the other guy goes, oh, that's awesome. That's our life. I would be the dude shooting myself in the neck, and Tom would be like, "Oh, that's amazing."
That's great.
Being friends and getting to start a company together. There's often days when you're starting a company where it's just difficult.
Oh.
It's just difficult. There's insurmountable things. You're banging your head up against the wall. You're trying to sort out how it's going to work. And I think that over these years working together, we had to sort of learn how to be friends and also start a company together, because as friends, it's different. And, they say that like the best way to lose your friend is to become roommates, or something like that.
Yeah.
Or business partner. We've been able to kind of say, all right, so what's really important to us is that this friendship where everything has kind of been built off of has to be solid. And there are moments when I want to throw Tom out of the office. There are moments when he physically has thrown me out of the office because he can do that. I'm just kidding. But we had to kind of power through those moments and figure out how do you stay friends in a business that is hard. And launching something like this is extremely hard. It's not for the faint of heart. I was just talking the other day to somebody about when we met Bill Owens from American Distilling Institute long time ago. And he was like, we said, what is it that we need to know? What is the one thing? And he said, add a zero. I was like, what are you talking about? He's like, add a zero. How much capital you're going to raise? Add a zero. And it was like, oh man. And he's correct. He's 100% correct. Yeah. Everything that we sort of set out to in the beginning, we had to work 10 times harder, raise 10 times the amount, at least, to be able to scratch the surface of getting on our feet. Yeah. And so, but the movie question is a good question. We haven't had that question. That's the first time we've ever been asked that question. That was good.
Yeah.
And the movie you guys were thinking about was The Other Guys.
The other guys. Yeah, the other guys.
Yeah, but they were like opposite characters in that one. Will Ferrell was like the it's got to happen like this, and Marky Mark was like,
And the movie Daddy's Home.
The Gator.
we have to interact with each other.
Yeah.
So imagine the movie Daddy's Home, but they're friends.
Yeah.
Like the characters.
Man, that would be a good one too. I want to see that one.
We need another budget to create that. A whole nother budget. No.
Yeah, add another zero.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the movie industry.
I thought he was going to ask if you were to make a movie,
Mm-hmm.
what would the kind of movie you would make?
Platoon.
That's a good
Me. Because this is incredibly difficult. This is such a hard thing to get through. There's so much chaos around you. There's constantly bullets flying at you from directions you didn't know. You have to have your whole inner understanding of how you're going to push through it.
Mine was going to be a history documentary.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Well, there you go. So, I mean,
That's
real simple. I didn't live through combat like you did, Brian, but the reality is it feels like you're kind of in battles. You got to solve these problems. You got to fight these small battles in order to keep moving forward. And our objective is we want to become a household name. We want people to hear Oaklore and think excellence and quality. We early on would only select the smallest amount of hearts that we could to produce our product, and we've tried to keep that same amount of quality even now. Later on, where we're willing to make it a little bit more difficult to attain, so that quality hits people's glass, and we hope that people will keep trying it and find it out.
If you have to pick an actor to be you, but you're not allowed to pick Farrell, who else? Is
Jack Black.
To be you?
Jack Black. Heck yeah, man.
Jack Black from like old school, or like Jack Black now with the crazy beard and craziness?
Oh man, I think he's always been kind of crazy, but I'll take it. School of Rock.
Yeah,
most definitely.
Right,
yeah, for sure.
Jack Black, huh?
Yeah.
Okay.
Why not? Oh wait.
No, that's right.
Sorry, Brad Pitt. My bad. Brad Pitt. That's me. I'm Brad Pitt. I'm known that people mistake me for him all the time.
Clooney for sure.
Yeah. So I'm like, I'll walk into a room and they're like, "Oh, it's Pitt." No, it's just the guy from Oaklore. I don't know, guys. I don't know.
Yeah,
No,
I
that's
can see
great.
it. I can see
I think
it.
that's what Matt Damon trying to be funny, because you know how he's like tries to be funny, but he's like super awkward at it, and like he can't really pull it off, but he's trying real hard, and you're like, at least he's trying hard. Like that.
We need a Matt Damon, Jack Black movie. That would be great.
Someone good after. Good for him. That's what people. That's how people would watch.
I appreciate
it.
he's trying.
I appreciate he's trying.
So we have a couple more questions. There's one I really want to get to. Then we'll do our favorite question at the end. Is we're whiskey nerds, and we always want to find out what's coming out. Do you guys have anything in the works in the near future, or maybe a couple years down the road, that you guys can talk about, if possible?
Man, this is so exciting, and it's really, really great. And boy, there is this wonderful thing, and but we can't talk about any of it.
Yeah, that's all you get. No, we got a product that just hit e-com that is available in our shop here in Charlotte. It's also available on e-com. It's a port finish rye, and it's a special product to us because it is our North Carolina rye. That grain is grown here, that is distilled here, it is barreled, it is aged, it is bottled all here in North Carolina. But there's a part of it. This is a lot of Tom's story, as a matter of fact. So I'll let him tell of why we brought barrels in from St. Augustine.
Yeah. So when my wife and I graduated, and she graduated grad school, her and I moved to Florida. Just on our own, we said, it's just us. Let's go tackle the world in Florida. So we went down to Florida, and St. Augustine, Florida is it's the oldest city in what is now the United States. And they have a great winery down there. It's a port winery. And so we got to know them pretty well. Well, moving back up here, and then, meeting Matt and just traveling around and getting to know people. So Matt and I spent a lot of time driving to Florida and meeting these great guys, Dan and Charles at this port winery, and we trade barrels. So it's a tough job. We have to go to Florida. We have to trade barrels with a port winery and taste the port. We have to go fishing when we're down there.
Yeah, it's 100%.
We have to drive them straight back up here and fill them with port, or fill it with rye and fill it with bourbon. So it's a really great product. It is something that we're passionate about. We really appreciate the port wine and the barrels that help. They make a tawny port, and I think the port ages in their barrels for anywhere between 12 and 18 months, and they cycle those barrels every 10 years. And so we bring our barrels down, we trade out with their port barrels, and we age our stuff in it. And it's been just an absolute wonderful experience. Those guys down there, Dan is great.
That's awesome.
And it's super fun to go down to Florida and hang with them for a little bit. And our port was just in a. Are we not allowed to say it, right? Okay.
Are we allowed to say it, Jack? You can say it.
You can say it. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So our port was our rye finished in port barrels was just rated 96 points, and it's going to be on e-com and sold in our shop, and it is super exciting. It's a love for us because everything we do is. But it's meaningful. It is everything we do for a purpose. So that's probably something that is super exciting for us.
That's really
these
exciting.
Port barrels.
Is a double gold in New York's International World Spirits Competition. Is that right, Jack? And so it's cool. It's cool that they're gaining some recognition, and we're starting to see some awards come in, which is really cool because we're not really awards guys. We want to sit around with people that we like and that like bourbon and enjoy it together. That's more important to us than having awards. But it's meaningful to us when those things come in, and it helps to affirm that we should keep doing what we're doing, which is great. So that's coming up at e-com. We have a few releases locally. So if you have listeners that are in and around North Carolina and the Charlotte area in particular, in October we do a Bloody Butcher Corn release. That's our Bloody Butcher Corn, and that'll be 6 years this year. 6 years this release. Yeah. We also do a honey cask finish that comes out on Black Friday. That one is, that is the fastest selling product. We had no idea what we had our hands on, and every time we release it on Black Friday, it's kind of a mess. It goes quick. People come asking for it, and that honey finish has been really, really popular. So,
we have everything we do has a purpose, and it really is. There's a lot of thought behind it. We have honeybees on our property, and we've had them for years now, and they're managed on our site. The honey we get from the honeybees we use in the casks, and then that's what we put our bourbon in, and then age our bourbon in those same casks for minimum 12 months now. In the beginning, it was shorter. Yeah, it was shorter. But now we're right around 12 months is when that's done. So the honey release in Black Friday, the Bloody Butcher Corn release, because of that Bloody Butcher Corn, the origins come from the Appalachian regions, and it had just a different kind of flavor. Yeah, really robust. And so those are things we're really proud of.
Yeah, and there's some fun surprises coming down the road, and the best way to kind of know what's happening is to make sure you're following our Instagram. That's a great way. You can also get on an email list with a newsletter that comes out every week when we talk a little bit about what's coming up and what's going on. For folks that are local, we have something called an owner's keep cabinet. And over the years, Tom and I have put things in that cabinet that either didn't go out into distribution or they made it to the shelf, but we saved, just enough so people can try stuff. I think there's almost 100 bottles of different products in there. We got a chance to go to, this was just recently, we got a chance to go to it was incredible. Oh, we can't talk about that? All right, you have to edit that part out. So we have all these, Jack's telling we can't say that. I don't remember what we're allowed to say or not. So, all right, Joe, you got to
I'm not doing that. That's it. I'm not doing that.
See, yeah, I'm not doing that. Now I'm jumping off the boat. But we were having like these experiments and these things that we could put out that brought different character and some other things. That was really fun for us because we're nerds. And so when people come into town, they get to try our very first batch that we ever did. They can try our very first honey release that we ever did, and a number of other products at cask strength that never made it onto the shelf. And so that kind of stuff is what's really fun. So sometimes, not sometimes. In addition to that, we have a number of products that will come into e-com that are limited time offerings. So if you're paying attention, you're checking our website, you're on our Instagram feed, you're going to know those things that are coming up. So exciting stuff.
Yeah, that's great. It gives me a reason to visit North Carolina now. That sounds interesting. Some of that stuff in your vault. Yeah.
The vault is absolutely ridiculously fun. I mean, you can sit there for an afternoon and go through 10 different expressions. There's stories that come along with each of them. And our tasting experts on site love to walk people through where those came from. story is important. That's our name, Oaklore.
It is a collection of all the things we've ever made.
Yeah,
we put in the bottle.
It's true.
Oh, that's even better.
Yeah. So Brian, thinks about that time. If you want to.
Yeah, it is about that time. So, guys, this is our favorite question. All of our hosts absolutely love this. I'm creating a book out of every single answer that, if you guys want to be in it, it will be placed into the book as well. I just don't have enough pages right now, so I'll get into it in a minute. The question is what's your favorite whiskey or spirits memory that you've had either growing up, seeing someone drinking, or you've experienced individually or with each other? And this is for you too, Jack. So please jump in.
Favorite one ever, man.
So I can go because mine's going to be boring, and then this is how this usually happens. I have to go first because what I will say something, and it will spur something in Matt, and then he'll tell the good story. So let me start first. This is how. So I'm going to tell you two. My wife and I years ago traveled to. We took when we got married, we were like, and when we're married 5 years, we're gonna go on another trip. It'll be our 5-year anniversary trip, and then at 14 years is when we finally made it. But we went to Ireland, and we ended up we drove around Hull, and we sat in this little bar. We were exhausted. It was towards the end of the trip. We sat in this little bar in Galway. And just had the best experience. The bar, I got this flight of Teeling, and the bartender she'd say, what do you think? And I was like, well, I like this one and not that one. She's like, okay, hang on just a minute. And she'd come back and she'd say, try this. And I'd try it. And she goes, what do you think of that? And I was like, well, I think this one with this one. And she says, hold on a second, I'll be right back. And and just for an hour, I got to just enjoy whiskey and have someone who was passionate about it, share. And it was just a wonderful experience. It was such the beginning of a wonderful journey in whiskey for me. And I really, really enjoyed that moment. Second, it's not a specific one, but it's something that Matt and I do and did last night. We were hanging out last night, and Matt will make me go pour him drinks in his house. He'll be like, go in the cabinet and go pour me 2 drinks. And so I'll go pick something out of his cabinet, and we will just he'll have to drink that drink blind, and we'll just sip it and talk about it, and he'll guess what it is, and then we finish it, and then he'll go pour 2 drinks, and then I don't know what it is, and we'll just talk about it and drink it. But those moments are really fun, and we have done that almost since we met.
Yeah, it's been foundational for us is the blind tasting.
Yeah, and we have those opportunities. We don't do it every Tuesday anymore.
Can't, no.
But it's sort of when it happens, it's super fun, and I really enjoy that part of whiskey drinking, and it's a good time.
Yeah, now we don't do it every Tuesday night. We do it Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. until 6 p.m. Tuesday nights anymore. My story is family too. Tom and I have become really close over this last decade, and I consider him family. Our families vacation together, and we've become really, really close. Family's always been important to me. In my early days I was kind of into whiskey before whiskey was a thing, because I did beer post college, and I worked in a craft beer bar in college. And so I kind of got into beer back in, the 90s when craft beer was starting to happen. I'm not saying I was country before country was cool, but I was country before country was cool. But I kind of got over beer. I couldn't drink it as much. It was just too much. It was, I don't know what it was. It was just thick and made me just kind of whatever. So I got into spirits and really fell in love with cognac and really kind of understanding what made cognac and brandies work. Then I got into whiskey, and my father-in-law and my mother-in-law in particular, we loved drinking Jack Daniels together. Jack Daniels, being in Tennessee, it's where I grew up, was something fun. And then we got into Gentleman Jack, and that was really fun. And then I found this company, this weeded product called Weller's. And this is like
cool before cool was cool.
Again, country before country was cool. But I really loved it, and I kind of studied what it was all about and learned that I just love weeded whiskey. Well, my wife's Uncle Tim, who was one of the most amazing human beings on the planet, just as generous as you could possibly imagine, was also a huge whiskey connoisseur. And every once in a while, when we got together with them, he was the guy that he had the cabinet of all the bottles that I could never afford and had never seen before. And he would always share them and pour them for all of us. He was diagnosed with lung cancer, never a smoker, and it was pretty aggressive. And we lost him. This was probably almost 10 years ago now. And my wife's aunt called and said, "Hey, when you guys come to the funeral, I need to know what to do with his whiskey collection." And so I went into the whiskey collection. I was like, "You probably should do this with this one, this, and so on and so forth." I said, "But this bottle that you got right here is super old, and it's pretty expensive, and there's about this much left of it, and it was a Pappy Van Winkle 23, and there was this much of it, and this is like 10 years ago, so this was pretty special stuff that you just couldn't find anywhere, and not that you can find it anywhere now." But she said, I want you guys to pick some whiskey, folks, and enjoy this." And so my father-in-law and me and a couple of the other folks that were there that were kind of whiskey folks shared this pour of Pappy 23 in his memory. And there was just something special about sharing that glass together, knowing his love and passion and feeling how happy he would be to know that we were celebrating his life around one of his favorite things. And that community, that family thing that happens with that, it happens like all the way up to like last night, when we celebrated my wife's birthday out back, neighbors, Tom is there, our family's there, his family's there, and we're sharing whiskey again. And it's what makes us tick is to enjoy that community, enjoy, oh, here it comes, Bourbon with Friends.
Ding.
Oh, man, that was the perfect ending to a perfect story. A sad one, but a good one. But
it was a beautiful moment. It's a really beautiful moment.
Well, guys, I really appreciate it. But Jack, we still haven't gotten your story, so we need to hear yours.
Hey, man, I've been in this business for 25 years almost. I've worked for some great brands, built some great relationships. I'll say right now, from a American whiskey standpoint, I used to manage the state of New York for Campari back when it was called Sky Spirits back in the day. And when I was working for Campari, Sky Spirits, we purchased this little brand. Sorry, it's a little rowdy over here. This little brand called Wild Turkey. And Jimmy Russell loved coming to New York. When Jimmy came to New York, I was his chaperone. I was his chauffeur. And when we purchased it, it happened to kind of coincide with Whiskey Fest. And I'd had Wild Turkey 101, in the past and, gotten way too many shots and got way too drunk off of it, didn't appreciate it. But when he came to town and tasted me on that Wild Turkey rare breed, that was the bourbon that kind of made me fall in love with bourbon, especially listening to Jimmy Russell talk about it. So, that's my oldest story when it comes to American whiskey. When it comes to my newest story, I've been on the commercial side of things, the sales side of things my whole career. And coming over to Oaklore and, getting to watch the Matt and Tom show firsthand every Monday morning and have that meeting with them and explain exactly how that meeting goes, relative to the dynamics of their personalities. It's fun. It is a lot of fun. And to be a part of that and to be a part of the process and tasting through the barrels that's going to go into the batches, as a sales guy, as a commercial guy, I've never been able to be a part of that kind of part of the process. And to be a part of that with Oaklore has been a blast. It's been so much fun. I appreciate what Matt and Tom bring to the table, not coming from this side of the business. And it's been a breath of fresh air from someone who's been in this business for a long time. And it all stems from good whiskey and quality whiskey. And I don't think that's ever going to change. And that's why I'm here. That's why I partnered up with Matt and Tom and Oaklore. And I'm looking forward to kind of taking this brand to that level. It's going to be, we're here for the long haul and we're going to have some fun doing it.
Good. Now, that was great. Well, thank you so much, Jack. Matt, Tom, everybody listening out there, no matter where you're at around the world, we really appreciate it. We love you guys. And again, no matter where you are, remember, a bourbon with friends or whiskey can change the world. Thanks, y'all. Cheers.
Cheers.
That's it for this episode of Bourbon with Friends. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss a single episode. While you're at it, leave us a review to make it easier for others to find the show. You can also check us out on Instagram at bwfpodcast. Thanks for listening.